wake up. No more distractions, no more co-host review shows. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows, done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. And when Jason walks in with his machete, or when you cross paths with Myers, or you dream of Freddy, whatever the tale, I'm gonna read it for you, cause I'm the 80s fucking slasher librarian Josh LaRue. Whatever I read, whatever you hear, there's one thing I'll promise year after year: you're gonna get the best of my best, this I promise you. Cause I'm back in that fucking bloody slasher groove. Because the librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. That's a promise from Josh LaRue. Slasher books both old and new, written by me and written by you. Yup, now I'm back, I'm back. No more distractions, no more co-host review show. Librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back. I even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready, so I sent Krueger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The librarian is back.
Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. The fan novelization by Jeremy Terry. Chapter 4. Personal Experiences. Thunder rumbled in the distance as the Lazarus rode across the growing swells. Lightning flashed, its branches forming a clawed witch's hand that seemed to reach down towards the ship. A gust of wind hit the Lazarus's side, howled around the cruise ship's stacks as the approaching storm cleared its throat and prepared to roar. Renie sat at the small desk in her stateroom, with her new pen in hand and a blank sheet of stationery in front of her. She heard the wind, imagined she felt the boat sway under the assault, and felt the familiar old fear crying deep inside of her. "Take it easy, girl," she thought. "This is a huge boat and the weather isn't that bad. Just breathe." "Right, breathe," she said. Her dog Toby perked up at the sound of her voice. He sat beside her, his ears twitching, his eyes bright. Renie scratched his head and then put her pen down with a sigh. She'd always pictured the place her stories came from as a deep, ivy-covered well inside her mind. It appeared that the well was dry for the moment. "What do you think, Toby?" she asked. "Is it time for some personal experiences to fuel our minds?" "Woof," said Toby. "I agree," said Renie. She stood and walked to the closet, pulling out a fresh white blouse, pair of stone-washed blue jeans, and her brown suede leather jacket. She donned her pants and shoes and then paused with her shirt in her hand, suddenly certain that she was being watched. She turned around, her shirt clutched protectively over her chest, and stared at the circular porthole over the desk. It seemed different somehow, as if it were a malevolent eye blinded by a murky cataract. Nothing moved on the outside, and she was about to release the breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Then the porthole changed. "Help me!" The murky darkness turned into murky lake water, and Renie could see a shape swimming towards her from the impossible depths. It was the boy from her fear-fueled nightmares. His head was misshapen, one eye slightly offset from the other. Hair grew sparsely on his head, and his teeth were like a collection of mossy stones, each jutting up at different angles. He reached the porthole and beat his hands on the glass that held him in the water. Bubbles plumed from his lips and struck the porthole. She heard his choking sobs as he drowned. "Oh, Jesus," Renie moaned, covering her eyes with her hands. "It's all in your head. It's not real." Unreality washed over her like a tidal wave, and she nearly fell. Toby stood at her feet, growling at the porthole, as if he saw the same vision her disordered brain was showing her. "You missed your meds," she whispered. "That's all it is. There's no boy. There never was." Jason stood on the deserted walkway outside Renie's room, staring through the porthole at her and Toby. For a moment, he thought she'd seen him. But then she lowered her hands and sighed with relief. It was strange that one girl could be so unlucky that she would be haunted by ghosts both real and imagined. It was enough to make the deadite voices in his head chuckle. "It's okay, Toby," she said, bending to pat the still growling dog on the head. The girl with the fire for hair might not have seen him, but the dog certainly had. Jason wondered what sound it would make if he squeezed its furry head until it popped. Renie was coming towards him, and he backed away just in time to avoid detection as she reached the porthole and drew the curtains over it. This did little to settle the dog, and Jason could hear Renie's continued attempts to calm it. Jason looked down at his rotten hands, at the exposed bones peeking through his tortured flesh, and imagined wrapping them around the girl's throat. He imagined digging the bony tips into her neck until they came together behind her windpipe, and then yanking outward, tearing her esophagus from her body. The Deadites thought that was a great idea, but his mother had another idea. "Be patient, my love," said Mother. "She escaped you once, and now she needs to suffer. Let her live to see you take all of her friends from her first. Save her until the last. Save her until she is nothing more than a blubbering mess begging to be put out of her misery." Jason moved off down the walkway towards the closest shadowed passage. He would do as Mother bid. After all, there were so many more victims waiting for him to come calling. Renie stared in confusion at Toby as his attention shifted from the porthole to the closed cabin door. He'd never acted like this before, and his behavior alongside her most recent hallucination was making her uneasy. She finished dressing and moved to the door. "Calm down, boy," she soothed. "Everything is okay." Toby scratched frantically at the bottom of the door, and Renie began to worry he might damage it. She twisted the knob to open it, reached down to grab him, but Toby was much too fast. He bolted through the opening and down the passage. "Toby, wait!" He didn't even slow. Renie stepped out into the passage in time to see the tip of the border collie's black and white tail vanish around a corner. The sound of a gloved fist striking flesh rang out across the gym and was drowned out by the loud cheers and jeers of the crowd of students and crew members who'd gathered to watch the boxing match. Among them, or rather above them, stood Eva and Tamara, watching with interest through a skylight as the two teens circled each other in the middle of the ring. The taller young man was named Julius Gaw. He was dark-skinned and strikingly handsome, picture of Adonis in boxing shorts. He moved like a cat, and every female in the vicinity couldn't take their eyes off his body. The other boy's name was Caed Bristol. He was white and stocky, strong but slow, and obviously outmatched by Julius. "Is that a muscular bod or what?" Tamara asked, biting her full lower lip. "Righteous," Eva said. Ked dodged back, glancing up and catching sight of the two girls staring down at them. Tamara smiled and waved. Ked's eyes widened and his mouth fell open. Julius didn't miss the opening. Whack! Pow! The two-hit combo sent Ked reeling to the mat where he lay, staring up at the girls with a dazed, vacant expression on his face. Julius threw his hands up, dancing like Apollo Creed. He saw Tamara and Eva watching and winked. "Did you know that he's undefeated?" Tamara asked as Julius helped his fallen opponent to his feet, and the crowd began to break up. "Julius is the only member of our graduating class I considered doing it with." "He is so good-looking," Eva said. "I'd join that party any day." Footsteps behind them. Tamara turned and saw one of the ship's crew approaching, and bumped her friend. "Gorgeous guy at 10 o'clock. Looks sensual." To Tamara, sensual came easy, natural. Eva watched her from the corner of her eye and felt a little like crying. Sexy was an awkward act for her. Sexy was simply what Tamara was. What man would look twice at her when Tamara was nearby? The answer was no one, not unless they were some weirdo with an Asian fetish. Take this man, for instance. He was muscular, bearded, and there was grease in the creases of his callous hands in spite of many washings. Eva assumed he was the ship's mechanic responsible for maintaining the engine and other systems during their voyage. A very important job. She imagined watching him working, imagined that she was walking up to him in the steam-filled dark. His eyes drifted appreciatively over her and then locked onto Tamara. The erotic vision faded into mist before it could really begin. She wouldn't even have minded if this man had a thing for Asians. They watched him until he was gone, and then Tamara turned back to Eva. "I think it's time for some recreational activity, girl." Eva brightened. "That sounds good to me. I heard there's a shuffleboard court on the top deck. It might be kinda cool." Tamara raised one perfectly tweezed eyebrow. "You're joking, right?" Eva wasn't. "Sure, of course I was," Eva said, following as Tamara walked off towards a nearby stairwell that led down to the main deck and pool area. Charles McCullik felt like everything in his life was spinning out of his control, and this made him angry and listless. First, there was the trouble with his wife. Second, Renie's sudden appearance and attendance against his better judgment. The meddlesome Mrs. Van Dusen would pay for interfering in his and his niece's affairs somehow. He would make sure of that. Now there was this kids running wild around the ship, completely ignoring the carefully prepared schedule of events he had made for them. Even Renie was missing things, and that was not like her. McCullik thrived in an ordered and regimented world. He required obedience and responsibility from everyone around him. The absence of that made him feel like he was going to go insane. He turned the corner and walked down the narrow passage, stopping to knock on Renie's cabin door. He waited, expecting to hear her answering voice from the other side, but there was nothing. He knocked again, called her name. No answer. He grabbed the knob and found it turned easily in his hand. Another lapse on Renie's part. She knew better than to leave her door unlocked. He gritted his teeth, pushed the door open, and looked around to make sure she was not there. Footsteps sounded in the passage outside. McCullik stuck his head out and saw Wayne Weber coming towards him with his video camera stuck to his face. Another kid with his head in the clouds instead of focusing on what was important. McCullik grabbed the camera and forced it down so he could look the teenager in the face. Wayne took a step back, upset but too fearful of the older teacher to make a scene. This made McCullik happy. Finally, a little normalcy amongst the chaos. "Have you seen my niece anywhere?" McCullik asked. "Yeah," Wayne replied, checking to see that his precious camera hadn't been damaged. "I saw her motivating up near the pool, I think. What's the problem, Mr. McCullik?" "Senior prediction started 5 minutes ago and she hasn't shown up." "Oh, that's all?" Wayne said with a shrug. "You know, some of us don't want our futures predicted. In your case, I'm sure that's true, McCullik said, brushing past Wayne, heading towards the nearest stairway. Tamara led Eva towards a secluded alcove within sight of the pool and unzipped her bag, taking out the baggie of white powder, a straw, and a mirror. The sight of the drugs made Eva's stomach tie into knots. This wasn't who she was. She was a good girl, and she wanted to be a good woman. Still, she also wanted to experience more of what life had to offer, and Tamara seemed to be the ticket to new adventures. The conflict made her feel slightly sick. Nighttime is the right time, Tamara said, as she opened the bag and poured a small amount of the powder onto their reflections in the mirror. She tried to hand Eva the straw, and Eva flinched, as if Tamara were trying to hand her a poisonous snake. No thanks, Eva said. I'm good. Tamara gave her the look Eva was afraid she was going to give her. The look that said Eva wasn't good enough. The look that said Eva was a disappointment. What? Tamara asked. You aren't serious, right? Come on, don't be a lightweight. This is top dollar tubes. Eva gave a small shake of her head, torn between two imperatives. It's not that. It's just that if I get caught, I'll lose my science scholarship and everything. My mom would kill me if I managed to do that, and she had to pay for my college out of pocket. Sweetheart, you are talking to the prom queen. Do you really think I'm going to risk getting caught? Eva considered this, remembering how Tamara had shoved the bag full of drugs into her hands when McCullik had questioned them prior to boarding the ship. She was sure Tamara wouldn't risk getting caught, but would she risk Eva getting caught? Maybe. I guess not, Eva whispered. Tamara held out the mirror and straw. Do you realize how many people would kill to be sitting here with me right now? Come on, it's grad night. You have your whole life to be uptight. Live a little. Uptight, the word stung. That's what the last boy Eva had gone on a date with had said about her. They'd been kissing in the back seat of her parents' car, but she'd stopped him when he tried to put his hand up her skirt. He called her a prude, a bitch, frigid and uptight. Eva didn't want to be uptight. She took the straw and snorted a line of coke. She wanted to look cool, almost managed it, but her nose betrayed her, and she sneezed explosively. This made Tamara giggle, which made Eva giggle. Is that some unbelievable shit or what? Tamara asked, tapping out a line for herself. She took the straw from Eva, was about to bend down, when the sound of someone coming towards them reached their ears. There was no time to hide the mirror or the baggie. All the girls could do was look up and wait for their fate. It wasn't another sexy crewman, nor was it a psycho killer, or, even worse, that king of douchebags, Charles McCullik. Instead, it was the douchebag's niece. She was dressed in jeans, probably bought at Kmart or Woolworth's, a plain white shirt, and a brown suede leather jacket. Tamara had to grudgingly admit was pretty cool. That didn't change her opinion of Renie, though. After all, even the cataclysmically retarded could get something right every once in a while. It was clear the poor girl had no fashion sense whatsoever. Tamara noticed Renie's eyes growing wide when she saw the baggie and the mirror and felt pity turn to hate. It was just her luck that little Miss Goody-Two-Shoes saw them. She would be willing to bet anything. The first thing Renie would do would be to run to her uncle and tattle. Jesus, Tamara said, her hand clutching at her shirt collar. You scared the hell out of us. A mousy squeak from Eva added credence to the statement. Renie glanced at her, back at the bag of nose candy, and then to Tamara. I'm sorry, Renie said. Have either of you seen my dog? I think he came this way. Eva issued another squeak in reply. Renie frowned and looked to Tamara for an interpretation. Tamara shook her head. No, we haven't. She held up the baggie, a small smile spreading across her pretty face. Care for a hit? No thanks, Renie said with a grimace as she walked away in the direction of the pool area. Tamara and Eva watched her go. She's a real space cadet, Tamara said, shaking her head. I wonder if she'll narc on us. I don't think so, Eva said. I had creative writing with her this past semester, and I thought she was nice." "Nobody related to McCullik can be nice," Tamara said with narrowed eyes. She picked up the baggie and the mirror and then put them back in her bag. She wasn't in the mood to get high anymore. She thought it was the right time to get a little proactive payback, to get the snitch before she could get them. Heavy footsteps behind them. The bag was still open. Tamara spun around, trying to hide it behind her back and spilling its contents across the deck instead. Spilling the bag's contents on the deck at the feet of Charles McCullik. Stars burst at the edges of Eva's vision, threatening to blot out the world. She felt her knees trembling, and she realized she was very close to fainting. McCullik eyed the shattered mirror with its fine film of white powder, still clinging to the scintillating surface, and then he focused his piercing gaze on the two girls. "What are you two girls doing hiding out here?" McCullik asked. "Nothing," Tamara said. Eva was impressed by how steady her friend's voice was, and how easily the lie came to her lips. McCullik pushed the mirror shards with the toe of his dress shoe. "Are you girls using drugs?" A beat of silence, and then Tamara surreptitiously kicked Eva's heel. Eva opened her mouth, ashamed at her own apparent ability to lie at the drop of the hat. "Do you think I would use drugs, Mr. McCullik? We were just exploring the ship." Eva saw uncertainty in his eyes. He couldn't imagine perfect little Eva doing anything so vulgar as putting drugs up her nose. Tamara, on the other hand... "I'll be coming around to your stateroom in exactly 15 minutes, Miss Mason," he said. "You'd better have your biology project ready when I get there, or I'm phoning your parents." "They're out of town," Tamara said sweetly. McCullik bristled, refusing to back down before the spoiled debutante. "Then I'll make sure you remain on board while your classmates see the sights." He turned and walked away, confident that he had her right where he wanted her. Eva looked at Tamara and saw a determined expression blooming on her pretty face. "What are you going to do?" Eva asked. Tamara smiled. "Relax. I've got McCullik covered. But that little narking bitch niece of his is a different matter." Eva blanched. "You don't really think she told on us?" "Oh, I think she did," Tamara hissed. "And rumor has it, she's a teensy bit afraid of the water. Come on, I have an idea." Sound of bare feet on fiberglass, the thrum of springs being compressed, and a grunt of effort as Miles catapulted himself from the high dive out into space. He twisted, flipped head over heels, and knifed through the water with barely a splash. Applause filled the night as he surfaced and swam to the edge of the pool where Colleen Van Dusen and several graduates stood, watching the festivities. "Poetry in motion, Miles," Colleen said. Miles shrugged. "It was okay. I'm a half a twist short. I'll bone that dive yet." He pushed off the side and swam away, his lithe movements followed closely by several of the females gathered around the water. A hand fell on her shoulder, and she turned to see Renie standing behind her, her elbows clasped in her hands. The poor girl kept glancing at the pool, and then away as if she thought the water might rise up and swallow her if she stared at it for too long. "Renie," Colleen said, smiling at her, "I was just about to come to your room to see you." Renie made a valiant effort to return the smile that was only partly successful. "Have you seen my dog anywhere?" "No," Colleen said, frowning. "But I'm sure Toby is fine. The ship is only so big, and there's certainly no way off of it, is there?" "No, I guess not," Renie replied. "I just wish I knew where he got off to." Toby was close, much closer than Renie would like if she only knew what the border collie knew. There was an intruder in their midst, an intruder that smelled wrong. He'd first sensed the presence back in his person's room, and he'd known instinctively that it meant his person harm. He knew he'd been a bad dog when he didn't listen to Renie, but he could deal with that later. He would go without his snackies for a whole month if it meant he kept his person safe. Toby had followed the bad, dead, mushy smell through the ship, below and above deck, until he came to the passage he stood in. He couldn't read the people's words on the wall, but he did recognize the familiar clean smells coming from beyond the door. He pawed the door open and walked into the steam-filled room where a young man sat. Toby didn't know it, but this was Kaed, the boxer that Julius had thoroughly trounced earlier. Kaed sat on a bench in front of the showers, dressed only in a towel and pinching the bridge of his still bleeding nose. Suddenly the bad smell swelled, blotting out all the good clean scents, and Toby whimpered. How did the man not smell it? How did he not know that something dreadful had come near? A door creaked open behind the boy and a monster appeared. It was putrid and gassy, like something unearthed from the depths of a bog. It walked towards the boy, its feet squelching on the floor, so loud to Toby. How did the boy not hear? Toby knew he should growl, should attack the thing, but he couldn't move. He was not a good boy. He was a terrified boy, and he was helpless in the face of his fear. Kaed perked up, finally aware that someone was behind him, but he did not turn around. "Nice fight, Julius," he said. "Guess I need to work on my left-right-left combo, huh?" The monster didn't answer. He only came on step by slow step, stalking his prey. He lifted his right hand and Toby saw that he clutched the broken handle of a pool cue. It was jagged, splintery, and very sharp. "Hey, listen," Kaed continued. "No hard feelings, man, okay? What do you say we track down those babes later?" "Julius?" Finally, when it was already too late, he turned. He didn't even have time to scream. The monster surged forward and buried the broken pull cue into the boy's neck just below his jawline. Toby heard the awful tearing sound as the stake ripped up through Kaed's mouth, tongue, and soft palate. He heard the crunch as the cue broke through into the boy's brain and smelled the acrid stink as the boy's bowels and bladder let go. The monster lifted the boy up, held him aloft, his feet dangling a foot off the floor. The monster watched, his head tilted to the side curiously, until the boy stopped twitching and grew still. Then he tossed the boy and murder weapon into the nearest shower stall and turned. He paused when he caught sight of the border collie trembling near the door. Toby did not wait to see if the monster would come for him. Toby spun around and fled back out into the passage with his tail tucked between his pumping legs. Back on deck, Renie and Miss Van Dusen walked along the edge of the pool, Colleen trying to coax the girl back from whatever dark pit her mind seemed to be wallowing in. "So," Colleen asked, "are you having fun?" "Oh yeah, loads," Renie said sarcastically. Colleen raised an eyebrow. "I seem to detect a hint of disingenuousness in your tone, ma'am. Come on, level with me. Hey, if you can't trust me, who can you trust?" Renie sighed and gave her former teacher a wan smile. "You're right. There's something I haven't told you." A flash of color, and then Renie was falling over the edge of the pool into the deep end. She opened her mouth to scream, and the sound was drowned by the rush of chlorinated water that filled her mouth and throat. Colleen turned to see a giggling Tamara standing where Renie had been the second before. "It was an accident," Tamara said, her expression saying it was anything but. "I swear." Colleen started to reply, but Renie's gagging coughs drew her attention. She looked and saw that Renie was floundering, her eyes wide with panic. Something wasn't right. She knelt down, reached out her hand for Renie to grab, but Renie seemed beyond rational thought. Her head sunk beneath the water. "Renie!" A shape flew through the air beside Colleen. It was Sean, fully clothed in jacket, shirt, shoes, and blue jeans. He dove headfirst into the water and wrapped his arms around the struggling girl. Renie saw it was him and latched onto him, momentarily dragging both of them beneath the surface. Luckily, Sean was a strong swimmer, and he managed to get both of them to the edge of the pool. Colleen helped them out and walked Renie through the gathering crowd to a vacant lounge chair. Sean took a towel from one of the onlookers, and Colleen wrapped it around the shivering girl. "It's okay," she soothed. "I've got you. You're safe." Sean, still dripping wet, noticed the crowd standing around gawking at the spectacle and felt anger burning in his chest. He spun on them, his cheeks red. "Why don't you all take a picture, huh? It'll last longer." A few blushed, chagrined, but most took the young man's outburst in stride. This was juicy, and there was more to see. Colleen added the voice of authority to the mix. "She's fine. Just go back to what you were doing, okay? Everybody, please." Muttering and whispering amongst themselves, the crowd finally dispersed, leaving Renie to Colleen and Sean. Renie gripped each of their hands in thanks. Colleen squeezed it back and asked, "Care to talk about it?" A single tear spilled from Renie's left eye, and she shrugged. "I can't swim." "No kidding," Colleen said. "You seem terrified." I used to be afraid of skiing. I had an accident in high school. Broke my left leg. It took 3 winters before I could even really look at snow again. I was afraid, but one day I decided I wasn't going to let the fear beat me. I took some lessons, and I've never broken a bone since." "It's not that simple," Renie said. She paused for a long moment, afraid to bare her soul to another person. Finally, she took a breath and continued. "Whenever I get near any body of water deeper than a bathtub, I see this young boy drowning. He tries to pull me down with him." Colleen wasn't sure what she had expected to hear, but this certainly wasn't it. "When did this start?" she asked. "I can't really remember," Renie replied. "I think it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I spent a few summers at Crystal Lake with Uncle Charles and my Aunt Margaret after my parents died." "Did you have an accident in the lake?" Colleen asked. Renie shook her head. "I don't know. I get flashes and half-remembered images from my dreams where I'm drowning. Uncle Charles—" "Dear God!" It was the man himself. Sean, Renie, and Colleen turned to see McCullik forcing his way past a group of teenagers, his face red, his eyes blazing. "She's fine, Charles," Colleen said, trying to calm him. "Take it easy. She just had a little accident." "Oh, I can see that," he said, grabbing Renie and pulling her away from Colleen and Sean. "You've done a wonderful job of supervising these kids, Miss Van Dusen." "It wasn't her fault," Renie began. Charles cut her off with a shake of his head before turning back to the other two. "Stay away from her," he said. "Both of you." He put his arm around Renie's shoulders and started to lead her away from them, only to be stopped by Sausage, the strange deckhand. The man seemed paler than ever, and there was something ominous in his dark eyes. "I heard him," said Sausage. "I heard what he did to one of your girls below deck. She was the first. He's come back, and you're all going to die." "Listen here, you," McCullik said, wagging his finger in the man's face. "I've had about enough of your sneaking around and your doomsaying. Just what is your game?" The deckhand just smiled and walked away, muttering insane things to himself. McCullik made a mental note to speak with Admiral Robertson about his dubious choice of crew. He turned back to Renie, started to speak. Renie pulled free from his grip and stormed off. "Leave me alone," she called back over her shoulder. McCullik watched her go, sighing. He wanted to go after her to make things better for her. After all, Renie needed him, even if she didn't realize that at the moment. But there were other things that required his attention, other responsibilities that needed tending to. He checked his watch. The little scene at the pool had cost him time he didn't have, and he was now late for his appointment with Miss Mason. Renie would have to wait. He walked to a nearby hatch and descended a flight of stairs down to the lower deck. Okay, Slashaholics, this has been Chapter 4 of Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. the fan novelization by Jeremy Terry. Really enjoyed the deeper dives into characters' conversations, the going-ons on the ship. But what I really appreciated was getting the scene with Jason through the eyes and the mind of Toby the collie. I thought that was a really neat way to have that kill expressed in the novelization form. Toby looking for this and wondering why the guy couldn't smell the stinky killer, couldn't tell he was coming. And so yeah, that was really original and really fun. I really did enjoy that. A lot of murder fodder for Jason on this ship, and I'm curious if some of the teens that died in the movie just from the explosion are going to actually get better deaths or not going forward. And it's kind of gross. We all know where McCullik's going now. Anybody that's seen the movie, his appointment with that student has to do with her getting a passing grade without having to do any schoolwork. So, not too excited about that scene. But at least they both get it in the end from Jason, and that'll be fun. I like the fact that in this story, Renie saw like a young Jason grabbing her whenever she fell in the lake, but in reality it was actually the full-grown Jason that Tommy and them had chained at the bottom that was pulling her down, and she was seeing him as a young boy because that's the story her uncle had told her. Really like that. That's the way I had always kind of pictured it, that she was just hallucinating the young boy throughout the movie. But yeah, it was a great kill scene, great scene with Toby. Enjoyed all the character developments and conversations and stuff we got, the revelations, and looking forward to what comes next. Be sure to subscribe, click the like button, drop a comment below. Let Jeremy know what you thought of tonight's chapter and the book so far. What do you think of the creative liberties he's taken, and what are you hoping he might add going forward in the book that the movie just did not have or that was cut from it? And if you want to support the channel, there's many ways to do so. The greatest way is to just spread the word, let people know about it. And be sure to subscribe, click the bell so you always know when new chapters are dropping. And if you want to go the extra mile, you can become a Patreon member, you can become a channel member, you can buy one of my books, or Jeremy's, or James Acosta's, or William Pattison's. So many people have been adding books to the channel. All of them are for sale on Amazon. You'll always find the links to those book pages in the description and pinned comment below. If you want to do a Cameo video, you can find me on Cameo, link in the description. And if you just want to do a quick tip to the channel, a quick donation, you can do a super thanks comment on any video, or you can do it through PayPal or Cash App. All the information to do any of these things is always in the pinned comment below or the description. Until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood 80s slasher librarian saying thanks for listening, be excellent to each other, and remember, the sun never sets on those who ride into it. But then she lowered her heads. She lowered her head, Slashaholics. She thought the water might rise up and swallow her. Yeah. I'm gonna swallow her, by God.
Wake up, the librarian is back. The librarian is back. The librarian is back in the slasher groove. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. No more distractions. No more co-host review shows. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows. Done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. I'm done with those damn review shows. Done with being someone's co-host. I'm just narrating slasher books for the slashaholics. And when Jason walks in with his machete, or when you cross paths with Myers, or you dream of Freddy, whatever the tale, I'm gonna read it for you, cause I'm the 80s fucking slasher librarian Josh LaRue. Whatever I read, whatever you hear, there's one thing I'll promise year after year: you're gonna get the best of my best, this I promise you, cause I'm back in that fucking bloody slasher groove. Because the librarian is back in the slasher groove. The librarian back in that slasher groove. That's a promise from Joshua Rue. Slasher books both old and new, written by me and written by you. Yup, now I'm back. No more distractions. No more co-host reviews. Librarian is back in that slasher crew. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The Librarian is back. I even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready. So I sent Kruger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The Librarian is back in the slasher groove. The Librarian is back in that slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The Librarian is back. Even wrote my own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready. So I sent Kruger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the raptors had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The Librarian is back in the slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slashaholics. The Librarian is back. The Librarian is back in the slasher groove. It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. No more distractions. My own take on Jason and Freddy. Started with quarantine and then I was ready. So I sent Kruger to space in celestial slumber. Then Jason went primal and the rafters had his number. My audiobooks have crossed 75. Now let's hit 100 and have a fucking good time. The Librarian is back in the slasher groove. Just narrating slasher books for slasher both old and new. Written by me and written by you. Now I'm back. No more distractions. No more distractions. No more co-host review shows.